Thousands of new people were hired this year into the federal government because of new hiring reforms. First is shared certifications. When people are applying to government jobs on USAJobs.gov and they are found eligible and highly qualified, their name goes on a certification, and it's a list of individuals that is ranked. So this list is sent to the hiring official and they can pick who they want to interview. Now in the past, after someone picks who they want to interview, the certification list would go away. So the change is they're now keeping that certification list. Some agencies have kept it, but it was only for internal hiring. So the Department of Veteran Affairs, say you applied to one of their jobs. So the certification list would stay on file, so if the VA needed someone else to fill a different role, a similar role, they could use that list because they have already identified a group of people that were qualified. Well, now the change is that it's not just the agency that can use that list, but other agencies. So for instance, if you apply for the Department of Energy, right? Not just the DOE, they're not just going to keep that list. They are now able to share that certification list with other federal agencies. So the Department of Energy can share it with the Department of Agriculture or the Department of Justice or the Veteran Affairs. So you could end up applying for a job at the Department of Agriculture for an analyst. And you didn't get selected, right? You received the email and say, hey, sorry to inform you, you were not selected. But then 4 or 5 weeks later, you could receive an interview request from the Department of Justice because of that shared certification list. Recently, the Department of Agriculture did just this. They used the same certification list and they were able to hire 39 people off of that one list. They were all human resource specialists. I helped somebody in the Department of Energy to apply to a job and she didn't get it. She got the rejection email. But then 4 or 5 weeks later, she had an interview request for a job she didn't even apply to, but it was very similar to the first job that she applied to. So this sharing a certification list, this greatly helps the job seeker. It helps cut down on time wasted applying to so many different agencies. It also helps the federal agency because they're saving time, which means they're also saving money. The next change is with the USA Hire Assessment. Now these have been around for quite a while and you might have received them through your email. You apply to a job and then an email comes in saying, hey, there are mandatory assessments that you have to fill out, otherwise you will not be considered. This could range from, let's say, analytical skills. It could be soft skills like communication, but basically you are giving these small quizzes where you have to take. The problem with these quizzes is they take a lot of time. So one job could have one assessment, or depending on the job, it could have 5 or 6 assessments. So you do not know before you apply how many assessments are going to be required. Now in the past, I think it was only like 20-25% of jobs actually required assessments, but it seems like the government is leaning more towards that. So in the past, it would stop with you. You would say, I'm highly qualified, I'm an expert, here's my education, here's all my experience, and that's called self-certifying. Well, the government has found it more useful for you to basically prove yourself by taking a series of tests. One piece of good news with this is that when you take an assessment, it's usually good for 12 months, and in some cases it could be for even longer. But a lot of people do not like taking them, and I can't blame you because you can easily spend 2 hours or more taking assessments. You look at spending 20 minutes for the job, right? The average job announcement you probably can knock out in 20 minutes. And then on top of that, there's 2 hours of assessments. And another bad thing is, say you're taking an assessment. As soon as you click the button, you have to stay there. You can't go up and make a sandwich and then come back because you're on the clock. It'll give you 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is. You'll have a time completion clock that's basically counting down the seconds and minutes, and you have to be done before it reaches 0. Otherwise, you're going to be left with a low score. Now, I've taken dozens of these assessments, and you will have easier ones, right? Like reading comprehension, depending on what your background is. I found the reading comprehension ones to be really easy. The communication ones are pretty easy. Logical reasoning is okay. But then you have some that lean more heavily into math. And if you're not good at math, then you probably would want to study beforehand. I think that with the amount of revisions that each one of these assessments have been going through, that you could use study material for an assessment today and it might not be relevant for next year. Overall, it looks like the federal government is taking a step away from the more traditional education and the more traditional way you would display your experience. and they're moving more towards skills-based. And the intent is, as long as an individual possesses the skills required to perform a job at a high level, they should be considered. And ultimately, it comes down to selecting the best qualified candidate for that job. So what do you think about these two new hiring reforms? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it'll benefit the job seeker? Let me know down below. Now, maybe you're still going through the federal government hiring process, or maybe you're thinking about applying for a government job. One of the main reasons that people are starting to think about it more and more is because of the remote work opportunities, right? You've heard me talk about telework or remote work in the past. Well, the remote work seems to be actually shrinking now, unfortunately. If you want to know some of the reasons why remote work is kind of on the decline now, I want you to watch this video next. If you would like to see more videos like this, please click like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.